Glad you're back with us in our 2 o'clock hour today. We've still got a number of things that we want to get to. We've been talking about tax reform all day. Some evidence that Metrolink is not the only public transit system in America that's having crime problems. But other places where they're having it, they're dealing with it a little differently. We're going to talk about that this hour because it's they still haven't solved the problem here locally. What they're basically trying to do is go around Metro to solve it. And as we've talked about before, that is just almost a ridiculous theory, in my opinion. I mean, there are problems that to be had. The solution is to have a cop on every train and to force people to buy tickets to ride the trains and to have turnstiles. It's pretty simple, unless your goal is to not enforce fees because you think you're doing some social work or something. That's the only thing that gets down to. So we'll talk about that more later this hour. But listen to Ann Coulter on why she didn't end up speaking at Berkeley. Although Liz told me she read something this afternoon where that might still happen. I was told she canceled it. Here's what she said.
I thought I saw something on Fox this morning that said she might still go. I don't know that she's going to speak, but she might still go.
Let's go to audio soundbite number 1 real quick.
Whoa, has it come back now? But I mean, I think what's going on with Berkeley, when you have, it shows how radical the universities are generally.
Yes, that we know. And then she went on and claimed that not only was the university not dealing fairly with her, she started throwing barbs at a couple of the Republican and conservative groups that had backed her for her speech originally.
But at the end, YAF pulled out, said they wouldn't be associated with anything I did at Berkeley, and they wouldn't let the college Republicans bring a separate action either. I mean, even finding another lawyer, which I did, finding funding, what can you do?
Yeah, I don't know what the full story is here, but I know that the Young Americans Foundation has done some good work. We dealt with them when we got Colonel Alan West on the show back in the fall when the cupcakes and snowflakes at St. Louis University didn't want to have their eardrums abused by somebody who would utter the words radical Islam. Remember that? They had to sell cupcakes to raise money to buy coloring books and have safe spaces. I mean, it's just pathetic. And I appreciate what YAF does around the country by bringing in speakers who bring some diversity of thought to the whole issue on campuses these days. Spencer Brown is joining us right now from YAF. Spencer, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. Maybe you can enlighten us a little bit on the role YAF played in the supposed Ann Coulter speech that is now apparently not going to happen, and maybe why you guys backed off, if you did, at the end.
I think important to just start out with is that there was nothing to back out of or pull out from because the University of California at Berkeley at no time did they ever actually give us a venue or an event date and time where we could host a lecture on that campus. The school continued to throw up roadblocks from the first time the students on that campus wanted to announce their intent to host Ms. Coulter, and throughout the entire process, they just kind of kept throwing up these roadblocks, many of which were unconstitutional. And so that's the basis for the lawsuit that we filed on Monday. So this idea that we backed out or pulled out, we're still suing the school to ensure that this sort of thing doesn't happen in the future to conservatives and that conservatives, again, have a voice on that campus.
Right. So tell me about the lawsuit real quick. Fill us in on that.
Yeah, the lawsuit essentially gets to the basis of the issue, which is that Berkeley has taken unconstitutional action to suppress conservative speech on their campus. We've seen them use a number of different sort of administrative roadblocks, including leveraging unconstitutional security fees based upon the viewpoints of the person giving a speech. We saw them try to put in place a curfew on conservative speakers where they weren't allowed to speak on campus past 3 p.m., citing that it would be too dangerous to have a conservative speaking after 3 p.m. And then they also tried to force conservatives to speak at a venue 10 blocks off campus rather than letting them use any of the number of venues for lectures that exist on the campus and that they frequently make available for liberal speakers with no real hesitation.
Yeah. Boy, we've seen plenty of evidence of that, even here at St. Louis University, where they finally let Colonel West speak. But what's your reaction to the fact that Coulter's kind of thrown this back on you guys?
Honestly, it's very confusing because, again, we've not pulled out of anything. There was nothing for us to back out of because the school had never even gotten to a point in the process where they had told us, okay, you can hold an event here at this time on this date. There was no event there. And like I said, the Young Americas Foundation is the only organization that is currently working to turn the tide at Berkeley, to bring intellectual diversity back to that campus and to restore free speech with this lawsuit that we filed.
Yeah, it's pretty much gone on a lot of campuses around the country. I've even heard some Democrats pushing back on that. They seem to be really surprised at the length to which a campus like UC Berkeley and even the town of Berkeley with the police chief sort of have taken a hands-off approach to the violence. I mean, it's almost like they're encouraging the violence.
Yeah, I think taking your first point that you made there first, it has been made very clear how indefensible a position Berkeley has put itself in here because we have the ACLU in San Francisco coming out in support of conservatives having a right to speak on campus. We have Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren saying that they think conservatives should have the same platform on that campus. And so that really just speaks to the fact that Berkeley has put itself so far outside of the mainstream of even its own ideology that they have their own their own allies typically are turning against them. And then to your second point, during the process of filing this complaint in federal court, we discovered through our students on the campus there that we were working with to try to get this lecture scheduled, that the University of California Police Department at Berkeley has a stand-down policy, meaning that unless there's an imminent loss of life, the police have a policy to not get involved. So if people are rioting in the streets, if they're flipping cars, setting buildings on fire, as long as the police officer doesn't deem it to be an imminent loss of life, they can just stand there and not do anything to protect property or civilians.
Wow. Well, I appreciate the role you guys have played in bringing conservatives to campuses, and please keep up the fight, regardless of what happens in this particular Coulter case. For people in my audience who aren't familiar with the Young Americas Foundation, you guys help do tours of Reagan's Ranch and all kinds of things like that. Tell people maybe who are parents who have children that might be able to get involved what the opportunities are with Young Americas.
Yeah, so Young Americas Foundation is the principal outreach organization of the conservative movement, and we're committed to making sure that increasing numbers of young people are familiar with conservative principles. And so we accomplish that through a number of methods, including student lectures that we have at the Reagan Ranch in Santa Barbara, our national headquarters here in Reston, Virginia, as well as around the country. And then we also have Young Americans for Freedom chapters, which are sort of these outposts of freedom on campuses across the country where they're there informing their peers about conservative ideas and exposing their peers to conservative principles.
Well,
and then we also have the Reagan Ranch that we use sort of year-round in order to show students who President Reagan was as a man and show them why he loved freedom and how he enjoyed his ranch as a place to experience that freedom.
Don't they even have programs where children can attend classes on the ranch?
Yes, that's correct. We do that from time to time. So if people are interested in seeing what events we have coming up, they can go to yaf.org/events, and that shows you all of our upcoming campus lectures that we do. This week alone, we had a dozen successful campus lectures, and this month we had over 30 campus lectures taking place across the country. So they can see if there's one of those maybe going on nearby, or see all of our upcoming conferences as well.
Well, Spencer, keep up the good work. Sometimes I feel like we're losing that battle with our youth.
Oh, not a problem. I have to say, working with students every day, I can tell you there is a reason to be hopeful, and it is these students on their campuses. They're the real courageous ones who are putting up with this kind of leftist discrimination every day.
Very good. That's Spencer Brown with the Young Americas Foundation. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And hopefully that sheds a little light on what's going on with Coulter. I mean, she's kind of blaming them, but I'm not sure that they bear responsibility in this. I think she was a little frustrated. The head of the Berkeley College Republican, this must be a small group, but he is one of the ones who came out and verbally pulled support for a Coulter appearance. He talked to a local TV crew out there. I'm sorry, we potted up? Hold on, that's my fault. Here we go.
And I also believe that Ann Coulter, to some extent, was capitalizing off the narrative of, going into Berkeley and testing the limits of free speech, rather than going into Berkeley and, probably, facilitating a dialogue with students who disagree with me so we can reach a productive end.
Yeah. I don't think Ann Coulter is going there to have a dialogue with crazy liberals to try to change their mind, particularly not the ones who are the Antifa or whatever they call themselves, these anti-fascist groups who wear black hoods and don't have the guts to show their face and cause damage and start fires. Tucker Carlson last night interviewed a professor who had written an article in support of campuses like Berkeley who are preventing conservative points of view from being expressed. And I want you to listen to a part of this. It's unbelievable the defense the guy tries to give to this. And I'll play it for you when we come back. I'm going to go to a break right now so I can